Good evening. Sharon here, and I'm just here to talk about God's goodness and His grace and His favor over my life and over the life of my family. We cannot complain. I mean, over this past year, it has been so difficult for so many persons, but He has kept us. He has sustained us. My husband still has a job, thankfully. I still have a job. And we have been able to provide for our boys, our families, and been able to be a blessing to the lives of others. Throughout my life, I have seen God just do great and mighty things, and how He has sustained me, how He has kept me. I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. I remember when my aunt asked, at first I was like, in my mind, I was like, can I really do this? Because I get nervous when doing these kind of things, but I could not resist an opportunity to just boast on my God and to say how good He has been to me and to my family, to us. I remember in 2019, specifically, I got pregnant with my second son. And that same year, I had applied for the position of vice principal within my education system. And while waiting to be called for the interview, my second interview, because I got a first interview, and then I was waiting on a second interview from our commission, from our public service commission, and my husband was like, he thinks I should travel to have the baby. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that, because if they call me, I want to ensure that I'm on Antigua so that I can attend my interview, and I would just to see if I'd be able to get through with this position, because it's something I was really wanted. It's something I'd worked towards. But he was so insistent, and I prayed about it, and I felt the peace about traveling, and I said, you know what, God, this is in your hands. And so in December 2019, I traveled to meet his aunt, where I was going to have my son. And I was like, Lord, this is all in your hands. And I saw God just work things out. He was just so strategic about how I got to Canada, and how He took care of things when I got to Canada, finding a midwife service who would take care of me, just being able to be comfortable in where I was, and just being able to rest, because I think that was something I needed. I didn't know how much I needed it, but it was something I needed. And so I was able to rest even before my second son got here. And after he was born, about a week after he was born, my husband came to join me in Canada. And when he was leaving, like when he was getting ready to leave, I'm like, you know what, Kareem, I think I need to come home. And at that point, the COVID-19 virus was making its way, or had made its way, to all parts of the world. And, things were just getting a little bit ticklish around that time. And I said, you know what, I think I need to come home. And on the 10th of March, I remember it was the 10th of March, we decided, okay, I'm going to come home. I wasn't scheduled to leave Canada until April. But let me tell you about God. We got all our documents done in no time. Like, the timing was just perfect. We got the birth certificate, the passport, everything done. And so we were able to travel on the 10th of March, and we got back to Antigua. A week after we got back to Antigua, the country went on complete lockdown, because we had our first case. We recorded our first case of the COVID-19 virus. And I'm like, look at God. Because had I not been obedient, had I not listened to that voice, had I not listened to Him, I would have been stuck in Canada. And no, Canada is not a bad place to get stuck. But because I knew I missed my family, I missed my first son, I missed my family, I missed being home. And also I knew that I had to get back to work in April, and I missed work too. And I didn't want to miss the opportunity of getting to my interview. I hadn't been called up to that time, and I didn't want to, wait any longer, just in case they decided to call me. And so I came back home, and I just saw God take care of everything. He protected us on the flight. My son and I, we got here. We got here safely. And once we got here, I was able to, spend time with my family. Even during the lockdown, it was an opportunity for me to spend time with my family, for my first son to get acquainted with his little brother. And, we just spent all that time together. And all that time, God was just orchestrating everything. because I got called for my interview. Although they had to postpone it, I got called for the interview, which in and of itself is a plus, because once you're called, it means things are looking up. So I got called for the interview, and there was a wait time because of the implications of the pandemic, not being able to move around. But over the past year, I have seen God just do awesome things while waiting for my interview and while waiting to be appointed as a vice principal. I worked at the school that I'm at currently. I continued working. I continued trusting God. And, there were times when I felt like, man, why isn't this interview coming a little sooner? What is happening? Why isn't God moving faster? I just wanted to get there. But I felt like that time was needed for me to prepare for this post, for me to prepare for this time. And he just worked in me. He worked patience in me, and I picked up skills. I picked up knowledge along the way. It's like he was preparing me for where he wanted to take me. And on the 20th of November, even before getting that official interview, because remember I said they called me for the interview, but it had to be postponed. So even before getting that official interview, I found out that I was successful with the position, and I was appointed as the vice principal at my current school. And I'm telling you, I could not be at a better place, because I am able to learn from my principal. I am able to grow. He has been mentoring me in tremendous ways, and I am so grateful for it. And so, when you're patient, sometimes we get anxious when we ask God for things. We get anxious and we're like, why is it taking so long? But even in the waiting, you have to be careful about how you wait. You have to wait with humility. You have to wait knowing that God is going to work it out. You have to wait trusting him to work it out. And so while I waited, I continued to serve. I continued to learn. I continued to grow. And I have seen how the skills that I picked up during that waiting period, how beneficial they are to me now. And I'm just grateful to God for doing that. And over that time, over this past year during that pandemic, he has protected my family. I have been protected from the virus. Neither my husband or myself has ever contracted the virus. And we both work in areas where my husband works at the bank, and he comes in contact with customers all the time. I work at a school, and we opened back up fully in September. So students were coming back to face-to-face learning. And so it's a bit risky going out to work every day, but we go to work every day. We do what we have to do. We do all we can to protect ourselves, but I know ultimately it is God that has kept us. We are safe. My husband is diabetic. He has underlying issues, so we have to be extra careful. But again, I know it is God who is keeping us, and I know he will continue to keep us. He will continue to do what he has to do in our lives as long as we continue to trust him, as long as we continue to be faithful in our walk, and as long as we continue to serve him. And it is my ultimate goal, it is my ultimate desire to continue doing just that. I don't always have the answers. Some days I get tired, some days I want to give up. But I know at the end of the day that what he has for me, what he says about me, is more important than what I say about myself. And what he has for me far exceeds anything that I could dream of for myself. And so I'm going to continue trusting him. I'm going to continue looking to him, because what he says goes. Like, for me, I have just thrown up my hands. Whatever plans I can have, it doesn't compare to what he has planned for me. And I just made up my mind that I'm going to continue trusting him, because he loves me, and I know that. And I know he only wants what is best for me. And so I encourage you to do the same, no matter how small or how big the thing is that you're trusting God for. Just continue to trust him. And sometimes it might seem like it's not going to come, because I tell you, there were days when I was waiting to get called for that interview that I kept saying, man, are they really going to call me? Are they really going to call me? And my principal kept telling me, just be patient, it will come. I mean, sometimes they take a long time, but just be patient, it will come. And I continued to trust God, and I listened, and I continued to trust God, and I continued to do my best and continue to learn throughout my waiting process. And I don't regret it at all. So even while you're waiting, whatever it is that you're waiting for, whatever it is that you trust in God for, just continue to trust Him and give Him the little things as much as you give Him the big things. He has been faithful. I mean, I can't say this enough. He has been faithful. My son is healthy. My sons, they're both healthy. They're strong. They're active. And He just continues to cover us. And so I pray that you continue to trust God with the little things and the big things. And you continue to serve Him as He does great things in your life, as He continues to do great things in your life. Be blessed. Have a great week. And remember, whatever opportunity you get to testify about God's goodness, to tell others about God's goodness, please do that. Please do that. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And so I encourage you to always testify of His goodness, of His grace, and let others know just how big and awesome our God is. Be blessed.